Hello and welcome to another episode of the Digitals in a Cruel World podcast, brought to you, of course, by the Digital Disruptors. And this week that we're one person short because Indy's away on her holly bobs. I think that's a phrase that you're still allowed to use, although I did see some criticism of that word on LinkedIn the other day. But anyway, luckily enough for all of us involved, Ryan is here, and we'll make it work, won't we, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm intrigued now, John. What's wrong with the word hollybobs apart from it being just silly?
I don't know. I saw. I can't remember who it was now, so that's terrible, isn't it? But I did see someone had put a post on LinkedIn saying there were a number of phrases that were no longer acceptable to be used, and hollybobs was one of them, which is incredibly upsetting. And anyway, I'm going to continue using it. It's a little bit like we should embrace being woke. Like woke is the new cool, right? So like if anyone ever accuses you of being woke, then that's a compliment nowadays.
Oh, basically, when anyone accuses me of being anything, I take it as a compliment. Otherwise, I'd be very depressed all the time, John.
Well, that's exciting to hear. I should say, of course, that this episode is sponsored by Employment Hero, who are one of our wonderful sponsors. And of course, for anyone that doesn't know what Employment Hero does, they're a payroll bureau software, do all things payroll related and HR related. So for small businesses and accountants alike who are looking for a solution, they're one of the perfect places to start looking. We do also have some very exciting stuff from FreeAgent. Ryan and I have been speaking to Tony over the last few weeks and catching his thoughts and ideas on a whole bunch of things. And I think my little interview with him on the Xamarin and Mimo integrations in particular are top of the pops there, as it were, in terms of what we're going to be covering. But anyway, Ryan, anything else you want to chuck in the mix? What have I forgotten or missed, which is usually the way these things go?
Well, you've missed some exciting app news in covering what was a bit out of this world this week. Maybe a little teaser for what we're going to be covering in a bit.
Oh dear. With those kind of puns, everyone's going to hope that Indy's back soon.
They only sign on for her anyway, so I'm assuming the numbers have plummeted now. We've told everyone that she's not on.
It's very true. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's put this painful exercise to bed and let's move on to app news as quickly as possible.
Right, so I am kicking off app news this week with some interesting, as I said, out of this world news from FreeAgent. They have filed the first MTD tax submission from space. Now, here's a little bit of a gimmick. I mean, come on, how often are we going to be filing tax returns from space? But the fact that they've gone and done this has shown that how easy it is to file MTD, right? Once you've got the systems in place, it really is a click of a button as long as you're on top of your data. And if you've not seen the video that FreeAgent put out there, it's really interesting. I'd probably go and have a look. You may have seen things launched into space before. You've seen, I think, one of the biggest skydives where an individual sat on a chair, went really high into space via a giant balloon, and then jump off and plummet down to Earth with safety. I would say it wasn't just to his death. Unlike, I think, some of the FreeAgent software, which literally just balloon popped and it came down with a crash. But before that, as soon as it had gone into space, they launched a little robot arm, which came down and filed the first tax return from space, which I think is cool. I'm really geeky, but I think it's pretty cool.
It is very, very cool. And I mean, to be fair, the FreeAgent guys were talking about this at DAS, and the video, as you say, is I mean, if you're a bit of a nerd like the two of us are, it's well worth a watch, and it's quite good fun to watch the sort of little robot arm go and press the button and stuff, which is very exciting. I did also read very recently, because we're recording this just after the new tax year. I did also read that I think the official first tax return filed for the new tax return was tax year. Sorry, if I get my words out, was filed at 3:15 in the morning on the after the change of the tax year. So there you go. That's prompt. I thought I was quick because I did mine today.
Do you think that this might be Chris Downing? Because we know he's all about MTD. So he's just there waiting. Oh, I want to be the first.
I mean, I will say, if it was Chris Downing, he wasn't using Sage software, so that's all I'm putting out there. But anyway, who knows? But yeah, let's see. We want more opportunities to do MTD in space. So if anyone wants to fly Ryan and I into space on a rocket, hopefully a return ticket, we'd be quite happy to literally be the monkeys in the spacesuits that are doing this work.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to go with guinea pigs, but I think monkeys are more apt, John.
Yeah. I mean, between the two of us, we could probably find enough air to make us into monkeys, couldn't we?
Probably.
Anyway, let's move on. Let's stop this silliness and move on to something a little bit more serious. The team at Vital, who hosted a huge party just the night before DAS, have officially launched their product into private beta. They've got a page where you can sign up. If you follow Trent and Jordan and anyone else connected to Vital, you'll see on their LinkedIn that they've been putting this about recently. And like I said, they had a huge launch party at DAS, very well attended. I think they had in excess of 200 people expected there. And just in case anyone's not quite sure what Vinyl is all about, it's not some retro music collection. It's all about being able to share and pull out all of the details from your meetings that you have. It connects to things like Teams, into Zoom, into Google Meet as well. And I guess the key thing for them is because they're familiar with the way that the accounting sector works, is the key focus is around, it's not just a note taker that gets you a summary of notes and the action points off the back of a meeting, but it also puts that into your practice management solution. And they have a whole bunch of integrations with the likes of Carbon, amongst others, that enable you to kind of capture those notes on a client specific level in your practice management solution. And I guess that's probably one of the really key things here, is that it's doing a hybrid of what we've already got that's out there in the market, but specific for the accounting market. So yeah, well done to the guys. Hugely popular event. I didn't quite manage to make it, but I know some of my team did, and they said it was a good old session, and they were very popular at DAS. I know from seeing people milling around the stand at regular points during the days that we were there.
Yeah, I mean, AI note takers aren't new. They're not breaking ground with that. It's what you do with it. With, I guess, the amount of tech that's coming around with AI agents, it's all about data, what data you've got, how you can utilize that. And the only way to really maximize your assistance with clients is to capture as much information on the conversations you have. And that's where the AI note takers come into their own. They're literally becoming your database of advice that you provided, little snippets that your clients have said that become truly valuable later on. And as long as they're being collated and streamlined in a very accurate and standardized manner, then you can do something about it. And I think that's what Vinyl are really trying to tap into. It's not trying to revolutionize an AI note taker. There's enough out there. It's collating it in a way that accountants are trying to get the most from it. Is that your understanding of it, John?
Yeah, no, agreed. And I mean, I think that the perennial advice that those words so succinctly spoken by you there, Ryan, is it's what you do with it that counts. Is all that matters. But yeah, I wholly endorse what you're saying in terms of, like, these aren't new, but what they are doing is trying to make it a bit more functional and appropriate to the segment.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've got something that's a bit more standard, but very, very helpful. And that is iplicit have launched Client Manager into their product. Now, Client Manager, I guess, is another term for the partner channel. So the ability to access all your clients in one area, to move around, navigate them from a centralized location, manage user access, and see actually what your users are doing in the system as well. Now, they've done this because they see business process outsourcing being the I guess, next opportunity for those mid-level clients. So where you've got those that are outgrowing a normal outsourcing service line, they've got a lot of complexity now. They need to move into a mid-tier finance solution. That's where iplicit are trying to capitalize on, and that's what Client Manager should be powering. Now, as well as the standard features, such as the ability to, I guess, bulk onboard and offboard users and clients, and navigate, I guess, access through that, they've also got the ability to create sandboxes. So replicate a current client data into another area if you need to play around or test something or change something before you do it directly in the live system. That's always been a very powerful tool inside iplicit, but bringing that into Client Manager, I think, further accentuates the product and the benefits of working on a single product for your I guess your main outsourcing operations.
Yeah, agreed. And I think I think this opportunity that iplicit have launched here is, it's a really good one. In terms of, having more options and more solutions, I guess, for that kind of mid-tier segment. Larger to oh god, I was going to say larger small businesses. What an oxymoron that is! Like the top end of this
Small,
sort of
big. Small,
small
big,
big,
large, small.
yeah, whatever it is I'm trying to say. When you've got bigger than the Xero and the QuickBooks of the world, and for the mid-sized practices like our own that are trying to do more stuff, oh good grief, what a shambles this is turning out to be.
As you can tell, DAS has fried our brains. We are no longer able to operate the high quality we've been. You know what? Actually, it's not DAS. It's not having Indy around. We can't function as normal human beings without Indy just holding us to account, cracking the whip.
There's an extreme lack of focus coming to this whole thing. Anyway, never mind. Moving on. The Jenesys guys also launched something very exciting at DAS, which was Jack 3.0. So this is the third version of the model that they've been building and toying around with. And Jack 3.0 can do a whole bunch of things. You can do workflow, you can do chasing, you can do accounts payable, you can do bank reconciliation, and some of the compliance work. And so this is tremendously exciting from the Jenesys guys in terms of what you're capable of doing, and the general availability for those of you that want to get hold of Jack and have a play around is going to be today when this podcast launches. So 14th of April. And this is like the work of the team at Jenesys who've been building these models over about the last 2.5 years, I think it is, because it was November 22. I think my math stacks up right. There's just about that they started building this, and that's off the back of just over $1 million of seed funding that they got. But they have already hit $1 million in annual revenue, which is great to hear. And they did also provide and create this concept of Jack Pod, which is this combination of sort of outsourcing and use of AI to sort of supplement your day-to-day work and things. But yeah, exciting times. I did get to see some of the demos that the team did at DAS, which was very exciting. And I think one of the exciting things that I saw, because I think this is a problem and a challenge that a lot of firms deal with, is that challenge around how do you get information from clients and how do you chase and follow up those information requests. And that's something that's coming into the product towards the end of April. So it's going to be launched on the 28th of April. And it's effectively the document chasing feature, which allows you to review the documents that you have requested and received back and make sure that they tick the boxes. And if there's something missing, so for example, I don't know, if you requested say 12 bank statements and you get 11, then Jack should be able to understand that and then should be able to go back to the client and say, oh, hey, Ryan, you forgot to send me December's statements. You sent me all the others. Could you just send me that one? I think that conceptually is one of the great uses of AI. And we've talked about this a few times in terms of how that could really save organizations a lot of time, because the challenge around collecting data from clients still exists, and it's often quite unstructured in terms of it being an email and things like that. So that's a great thing. It presents that up on a dashboard as well, so it makes it a bit easier from the user point of view to sort of monitor where things are up to and obviously check that chasing is appropriate. And you can also obviously have some human intervention there if you want to stop someone from being chased. And then off the back of that, you've also got some other things in terms of once they start collecting that data, they can actually also automatically start processing some of that information. So again, there's a further iteration there. So you're not having to hand it off to another tool like maybe we would have done when we were doing this bit more manually, and maybe push it through a Dext or an auto entry or something to extract bank statements or invoices and get that into a bookkeeping system. So you can see how they're kind of working on this iterative, like end-to-end process. I think it's really fascinating to see that. And then the other thing that they did announce was that there's going to be a QuickBooks integration coming in a not too distant future. So I think that's expected probably in the next 2 to 3 months.
I mean, wow, the product has expanded significantly from just that kind of data extraction tool that it was back at Jack 1.0, and then I guess the majority of the functionality in Jack 2.0. So yeah, it's beyond that now. It's become an AI assistant to some extent, just a specific one for accounting partners. And I do wonder if they ever launched another product, would they call it Jill, do you think? So, I mean, it makes sense to call it Jill. I just wonder what that product would be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Does once you get to 3.0, does that take the shine off? Would you go to 4.0? I mean, you don't often find a product that gets a 5.0, do you?
Yeah, it should just go Jack, Jill, Janet, Josh, anything with a start with
Jesus.
G. Well, yeah,
Starts with G.
G, yeah. That's right, isn't it? I don't know the alphabet anymore.
It's a phonetic sound. That's all good.
I'm doing too much with my young daughter. Just sound everything out. Anyway, let's move on quickly from that. Adsum or OpenTax has now launched their partner program. Now, if you've not come across OpenTax or the Adsum product before, this is one that sucks data out of the HMRC government gateways and presents it to your accountant. So if you ever tried to work through the agent services account or directly through working with your client through a client login, it can be challenging to try and see everything holistically and gather all the information that you need on where had things been paid, when was it paid, has it been allocated in the right way. The OpenTax products bring that together, and it can now cover VAT, POA, and corporation tax. So it's becoming the one-stop shop to getting clarity on what HMRC are doing. And the partner program, as all partner programs do, gives you dedicated support, gives you some exclusive discounts utilizing the product, gives you unlimited users, so it's access all, as well as standard client control. And it comes with utilization pricing. So the more collections you got in place, the cheaper it becomes. And they've got the standard bronze to platinum, but the bit that's slightly different is they've got a blue tier. So below bronze is blue. I don't know why you go to blue to bronze and then silver, gold, platinum, and where blue comes from. But they've got that kind of base tier, the lower connections. And as you go up, you can discounts start at 10% and go all the way up to 50% if you're on a platinum account with them. So if you are a accounting firm that is struggling to get any information from HMRC, which is every accountancy firm. So if you're an accountancy firm, it's probably worth having a chat with them because they should be able to give you better insights into how your clients are interacting with HMRC on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I'm quite a big fan of this concept that Adsum have come up with. I mean, we've got something very similar that we've built ourselves internally, and the biggest challenge is getting some of this data out of HMRC whilst the APIs don't exist. So for example, the MTD for VAT APIs are now available for general developers to utilize, not just people that are filing VAT returns. The same will apply to the MTD for ITSA APIs, although currently they're only available to people that are looking to file returns under the MTD program. And obviously that's currently in beta at the moment, but we'll move to general release soon. But that API will be available in the summer of next year. So I guess the one thing that leaves is corporation tax. I wonder how they're getting that, because our solution to that is to go in and scrape that data, because that's really the only sort of easy way to get at it, because there is no API available for corporation tax. But yeah, happy days. It's quite exciting. Well, in a flip from exciting to more of the mundane, perhaps, Rachel Reeves announced in the spring statement that the MTD for income tax threshold is going to drop down to 20,000. So we already knew that it's going to be 50,000 from April next year. That then drops down to 30,000 the following tax year, and then the following tax year after that. So effective from April 2028, we're now going to drop down to a threshold of 20,000. So that captures quite a few other businesses. Although, again, I did read somewhere that I think there's still around about 4 million sole trade partnership businesses that are below the 20,000 threshold. So it's still quite a number. I will be quite happily fact checked on that, because I'm not going to say that I know that that's absolutely guaranteed to be accurate. But I think this is an incredible acceleration of that pathway that we saw, because I think a lot of practitioners felt that 50,000 was quite a low limit, and then obviously dropping down to 30,000 was quite significant. Again, when you set that aside with the MTD for VAT threshold, you only have to be VAT registered, and most people don't register until they go over that limit. It's going to be fascinating to see, I think, whether or not something in the longer term might happen with our VAT threshold, our registration threshold in terms of dropping that down to something that I think most practitioners think would be much more reasonable, maybe around about the possibly the 10 or 20,000 mark, which will bring it in line with MTD for ITSA. So the reduced threshold will actually capture about another 900,000 businesses and individuals and partnerships, etc. So yeah, quite a big tranche of new businesses to bring on board. So it's going to be a busy 3.5 years or so, whilst we bring all of these businesses into software, into the regime, get on top of that regime. Obviously, it's still very difficult to kind of predict what the impact for practices and for clients will be in terms of the workload, the thresholds, the whether or not people are going to be receptive to this kind of technology and everything else, and also how the penalties and things are going to work, because we know that there's going to be some some sort of easing in of the application of those rules and stuff as well. So it's going to be I think it's going to be a busy old time, and if anyone's kind of cracked what their plan is, I'd love to hear about it, because I'm not quite sure that most firms know if this is a bookkeeping problem, or whether it's a personal tax problem, or whether it's an accounts problem, or whether it's a software problem, or maybe a bit of all of those. And someone hasn't quite pointed the finger at the right department yet to figure out who should be dealing with what.
No, exactly. And I think that's it. It's such a big challenge for accounting firms, that part of it is just passing the parcel, isn't it? No, I don't want to handle this. You can just pass it to someone else. And I think beyond all of that, the number one challenge is getting your pricing and client communication right. Ignore the practicalities of delivering on this, which is massive, but actually, how are you going to price it? You're going to get it effectively. We can't, as a profession, just absorb this. We just don't have the scope to do that. So, and I guess as FreeAgent flagged when they were launching their MTD filing system up into space, there's about a fifth of businesses that are completely unaware of MTD for income tax that will be affected. So there's a huge increase in communication required from HMRC or advisors. And I think probably that fifth of businesses are those that don't have advisors. So yeah, big challenge. I'm sure it's all going to go swimmingly. Going away from the mundane to the, I call it interesting, as I like to always talk about in the show, it is the new apps on the Xero App Store. So let's run through some of the ones that have been added in the UK. So we've got a system called Omnipresent, which enables businesses to hire top talent in over 160 plus countries. They've got a Xero integration that enables you to push through, I guess, your costs directly into your Xero ledger. You've got Red Flag Alert for AML, which is now released purely for the UK. You've got Easy CSV, which I thought was quite interesting. So this automatically imports CSV or XLSX files from various sources directly into the Xero system, and that creates invoices, contacts, credit notes, etc. Now, obviously, you've got the ability to import in some way directly into Xero via their import tools, but there are limitations there, and so you sometimes have to use a connector, and I do wonder how good Easy CSV will be. Now, that's something that's gone across all of the Xero systems, so not just in the UK, it is global. So it's maybe worth exploring for anyone that does a lot of data pushing into Xero systems. We've then got CAX, CAAX, I think it's pronounced CAX, an accounts payable app powered by AI. There's a lot of these now. So if you've not got an accounts payable app powered by AI, then you're in the minority, I think, nowadays. And then another one that I thought was slightly interesting was UpMetrics, which provides financial forecasting, budgeting, and reporting. There's not much information on how this tool works. There's probably one that John and I have to dive into in a bit more detail going forward. And then rounding this out, the last one I wanted to cover was a system called Specify, which unifies proposal, CRM, marketing, invoicing, and project management, but specifically for AV integrators, which seems very niche. So I'm intrigued on that system as well.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it would be remiss of me to miss the opportunity to say, let's hope that CAX isn't a load of cack, and that it actually does something helpful and useful. But there we go. Anyway, moving on to the final bit of news, which is also from Xero, which is the announcement that they have merged the App Awards into a global App Awards rather than the regional ones that we have had previously. So for anyone that remembers, the Xero awards from the past. They've they have usually been regional in terms of we've had UK based awards, we've had Australia, New Zealand based awards, we've had US based awards, and then kind of a bit of a rest of the world wrap up sometimes as well. But now they've kind of unified those into a global set of awards, which I guess makes a lot of sense. A lot of the apps that we'll be using are global ones, particularly ones that are most familiar to us in the UK. And even the ones that tend to be much more regionalized are generally looking to expand outside of the territory that they start in and move into other territories. So I think that's a great way of maybe Xero being able to champion some of the real standout products that are operating, say, in one particular region that should be looking to expand into other areas as well that can serve a market elsewhere. So I think this is a great idea. The usual eligibility rules and the application rules stand. They're not quite open for applications quite yet, but they will be available in the not too distant future. I think I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to be nominated and what the options are, really.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a positive or negative, making it global. I think, in some way it raises the importance of the awards, so those that do win get more recognition. But I do wonder if it will take away from that localization where there's people that do really good things in a specific market and maybe aren't covering the entire global space. I guess we'll just have to wait and see on this one.
I am delighted to be joined by Tony Stevenson from FreeAgent. We're here to talk about some of the recent developments and integrations that you've been working on, in particular the work with both Xama and Mimo, two very different products, but also two very exciting products, and they've got a huge fan base in our marketplace, and I guess really good integrations for you to get into.
Yeah, so we'll start with this. We'll start with Xama because they chronologically were first. So Jack reached out to me summertime last year and said, look, we've got an idea and we want to do something that's not been done before and we'd like to do it with you guys. Are you up for a chat? So him and I had a chat, which was great, kicked everything off. And we sort of realized quite quickly that actually there was kind of a good overlap and a good opportunity to explore this kind of new thing that they were looking for. That new thing was to try and make AML a bit more of a live kind of operation that sort of happens as you're doing it, and that you were able to bring in financial data from the ledger product. So we'd had a bunch of conversations with AML providers before, and they'd always gone along the lines of like, yeah, great, but we don't really need to integrate with the ledger products because the practice management bit is where we want to integrate with, because that's where most of the information is held. And also your typical practice doesn't just use one bookkeeping ledger, they will use 2 or 3 or 4, right? Yep. So that central sort of place where all the information's held, that's kind of where we're tying into, right? So you see that with Xama's deep integration with Engager, for example, right? So they've held that for a while, but actually this was an opportunity for us to look at some of the financial data that was held. So there's a few challenges around like how do we make sure that it's correct and and that it's the right sort of information that's coming across. And then the idea was that you would be able to pull in the financial statements and P&L and whatnot to be able to kind of view those as part of your take on procedures and part of your ongoing AML stuff. So Jem and Stu would have dealt with the product stuff and the relationship stuff and moved that through to completion. And the Xama guys built the integration. So that went live in January this year. Which was an industry first. They have gone on to replicate it with other platforms since, but it was an industry first in terms of being able to bring that sort of financial data into the AML process, which is quite exciting. Like, it was nice to be the first or anything, right? Even if it ends up becoming the industry norm. And I'm sure that there are a few other AML providers that have looked at it and said, oh, do you know what? Wish we thought of that. And maybe that's something that we'll stick on our roadmaps a bit further down the track. So yeah, very nice. Nice to be able to offer something. It's our first AML integration as well. And it sort of sits quite nicely in that little sphere of integrations that we've got around, around sort of Xama and Engager and Zen and Connect and stuff that all kind of tie in together quite nicely. So it wasn't the final piece of the jigsaw, but it was a nice little step along the way for sure.
Yeah, and there's no harm in this competitive market of being copied by others, right? That's for sure.
Nice. Yes. What's it? Imitation is a serious form of flattery, I think, is the.
Yeah, for sure. And just for anyone maybe hasn't quite seen that integration yet and things like that, I mean, what would a user of Xamarin get when they plug that into FreeAgent? Again, sort of your full sort of P&L, balance sheet, etc., or some insights into sort of performance and how things are going. What exactly is served up in Xamarin?
Yep. So essentially, it pulls through the financials, and it adds like a kind of, there's a bunch of tabs of like KYC information that you would kind of keep an eye on as you keep an eye on your KYC stuff, and then there's an extra tab there that says financials, and it brings in the P&L, the balance sheet, and kind of what's been going on from a financial statements perspective, and allows you to be able to kind of keep an eye on that in that same place, rather than kind of have to go, oh, do you know what, actually I need to kind of check if their profit has gone up 500%, in a cash rich business or something like that, unexpectedly, these types of things. So yeah, it just brings all that data in and allows you to kind of see it in one place, rather than having to kind of jump around to different platforms or download it manually, or then maybe is that right, is that not, is that come from the right period, that type of stuff. So yeah.
Thanks, Tony. And moving on to Mimo then, I mean, a completely different app there, but again, operating in the incredibly sort of busy payment space. There's plenty of competition out there. So what was one of the reasons for picking up Mimo in the first instance, and then how again does that integration work with FreeAgent?
We realized that we've been doing a lot in the integration space, and they really fitted in with one of our key areas of focus, which is payments. So we have a finite team to build this stuff out, and we want to make sure that we really curated the list, and we've really got the top ones in our space for those types of practices. Payments is a hot topic at the moment, right? A lot of an area that a lot of practices are looking at, and
for sure, yeah,
it's right in the middle of that. So
yeah, and accounting practices and the clients, small businesses want options, right? They want options in terms of like, how do I either collect payments from my customers, or how do I make payments out to my suppliers? In some instances, it's a cost and a cost game, isn't it? In terms of like lowest cost but others are looking for convenience, and integrations are a real way of serving up convenience in the payment space for sure.
Absolutely. And from a pure work perspective, it's nice to integrate with a platform where you've got both sides of it in one place. I know Henrik's very keen on the monthly subscription to Mimo being pretty minimal, and then actually it's a sort of more as a pay as you play as you go through, and actually transact, so that people aren't penalized for needing a platform and having to pay a lot for the actual platform before they've actually started doing anything. So yeah, and like, it's just I love Henrik. I think he's such a smart, interesting guy, and I love talking to him. He's one of my favorites. So yeah, I'd urge anyone to reach out to him and have a chat with him, as well as about Mimo as well, because it's a cool bit of kit, and he's a great guy, and they've got a good team there. So
yeah, agreed. Totally agree with that. Yeah, they're a great crew at Mimo, and yeah, got some smart people working there for sure. And like you say, having that inbound and outbound payments all in one platform at a relatively low cost as well makes a big difference, because otherwise it does become sort of a bit challenging, particularly for small businesses, I think, to access. Awesome. Well, I think that's a perfect place to stop, and we will no doubt be catching up with you, Tony, because I know that we've got plenty of things to talk to you about in terms of what's going on with FreeAgent.
cool. It was a pleasure, mate.
Well, there we go. There you have it. There's the end of another Digitals and a Cruel Word episode, brought to you, of course, by the Digital Disruptors. And thank you again to Employment Hero for being this week's sponsor. Always great to have them on board. Of course, if you want to make sure that you catch all the latest episodes, please like and subscribe. You'll find us on all of the usual platforms, including YouTube. And of course, you can reach out to the three of us individually if you want to, or if you've got an idea or a point you want to get across, or something that we've completely screwed up and you want us to correct us on it, by all means, please do so. Look, listen out for other things that we've got going on. There's plenty more events and all sorts of other things going on. So we've got plenty up our sleeve to keep you guys entertained. But just, I want to say thank you again for listening. And please do like and subscribe, and add any comments that you feel are appropriate. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Just appropriate comments.